What is the strongest support item in Dota? Let us find out. We will look at the 3 most popular ones and see which actually comes out on top. Hello and welcome to a new series where I will give you a breakdown of important items in Dota, help you understand when is it good to make them and how to get best out of that item. For today, we will be talking about Holy Trinity of support items, Glimmer Cape, Force Staff and Solar Crest. I will explain what each item does, what are the best games to go for them, and eventually help you turn off the autopilot while buying items. Let us get into it. Glimmer Cape. This item is by far the most bought one out of the 3 that we will talk about today. First, let us say what it does. It gives 20% magic resistance, and when you use it, the target unit becomes invisible, gets 20 movement speed, and a barrier that works against magical damage. It got buffed in one of the latest patches, and right now the barrier is 375 damage. It only lasts for 5 seconds, but it is by far one of the most overlooked aspects of that item. Now, when is it good? Out of 3 items, I would say this is generally the most universal one, as you cannot grief your teammates with that item. It is good against heavy magical damage, or heroes that rely on having vision of you in order to initiate. This is also a great item to counter-initiate, as you can save your teammate. Just keep in mind that it will probably work once, as enemies will buy dust after that. A very important thing to keep in mind is how Glimmer can be one of the best late game pickups. During the late game, slots are limited, so fewer people will carry detection. Sure, a gem exists, but first, it has to be bought, and secondly, its range is quite low, making Glimmer still a good item against that. If the person with the gem is not there, Glimmer is very likely to save you, as other heroes are unlikely to carry detection at that point. A few patches ago, people started to realize how good this item is, and bought it even on course. Since then, it got nerfed in terms of mana cost and movement speed, but the barrier was increased. I would say it is currently in a very good place, as it's quite balanced. Mana cost of 125 makes it quite hard for low mana pool cores to buy it, and the fact that it works the same, whether you're using it yourself or an ally uses it on you, makes it mostly a support item. When is it bad? To be honest, there are not many scenarios where Glimmer is straight up bad. I would say against reveal spells like Zeus, Nyx or Bounty Hunter, it does lose some value, but on the other hand, a barrier of almost 400 damage against spells is quite good. The only scenario where it's straight up bad is when you start to get too many glimmers. Usually 1 is enough, 2 is already pushing it, and anything more means you can be sure enemies will be carrying dust. Keep in mind that other than the active, the item offers not that much, it's just the magic resistance. If enemies are based mostly on physical damage or they carry dust, your 2k gold item can be quite underwhelming compared to the others. Let us give it a rating. In terms of universality, I will give it 9 out of 10. Value for money, I have to go for 7, as it is completely up to enemies to have answers for that. As for the build up, it is quite bad, so let us give it a 5. That gives us a rating of 21 out of 30. Very solid item, has its drawbacks, mostly the mana cost and reduced effectiveness if enemy carry detection, but in some games this can be one of the best items in the entire game, even though it costs only about 2k gold. Force Staff. This is the second most bought item out of that list, but if we combine the upgrade, which is called Hurricane Pike, it appears in more games than Glimmer even. For 2200 gold, you get 10 intelligence, 175 health, and the ability to force units or yourself in the direction you are facing. It does cost 150 mana, which is a lot, but it does grant 10 intelligence, which pretty much covers that. In terms of the recipe, it costs 950 gold, so by far the biggest amount of any items we will be talking about today, but abilities that have reposition were always highly needed. This is by far the biggest drawback of the item. If you are playing support, sometimes it takes a few minutes to complete the item, despite having both staff and hat. I would say the fact that this item upgrades into Hurricane Pike, making it a must-get item for any range carry, makes Force Staff a bit weaker compared to what it could be if it did not upgrade into such a good item. Items are balanced like this sometimes. Keep in mind that some supports can eventually upgrade this item into Pike. It does work mostly for range heroes that can actually right click, like Nature's Prophet, Mirana or Wind Ranger. When is it good? There are two scenarios for that. First, enemies have area control spells you can escape from with a Force Staff, like Sprout, Power Cox or Fisher. Secondly, it is really good against cores that can be kited, like Troll, Raid King or Huskar. However, Force Staff is probably never bad. It can be used as a pseudo blink, escape tool or sometimes even initiation. Keep in mind that you can use it on enemies, and in some scenarios, like forcing enemy into high ground, it can be game winning. One interesting fact that is Force Staff has 550 cast range for allies, but for enemies it is actually 850, making it way easier to use on them. Generally, as I said, it is never bad, but in a lot of games, I feel like you would rather have something else. Sometimes you would rather have Ghost Scepter, Yules, or even the other two items on today's list. It is quite high skill cap as well, as you can sometimes force your allies into enemies, and that way guarantee yourself a report. Let us give it a rating as well. In terms of universality, I will give it 8 out of 10. Value for money, I think this item is hurt by the fact it upgrades into Pike, so the recipe is quite expensive. I will give it a 6. Build up is quite bad as well, but you at least have some intelligence and health from Fluffy Hat, so I'll give it a 6. That makes it 20 out of 30, placing just under Glimmer Cape. A good reposition tool, has an upgrade, but you need to master it before being effective. Solar Crest. This is the least bought item out of the list, but I feel like it comes from the fact that its effect works mostly for your allies. It does cost a lot compared to the other two items, about 400 more, but it builds from Pavis, an item that you can buy quite early. This item is by far the best item out of the list when it comes to effect when used, but its drawback is that when you use it on yourself, it only gives you a physical damage barrier. In terms of the active, 5 armor, 60 attack speed and 15% movement speed is an absurd amount of efficiency, and on top of that, you also grant 350 damage barrier. When is it good? Well, I said it in some of the previous videos, but this is by far the best item you can get if you have a carry that is going to hit people with attacks. Anything that goes in and utilizes attack speed, this is the same amount of Hyperstone, is going to enjoy that item. It is also the best tool you can get as support to siege high ground. Putting it on any core is way more effective than using a meteor hammer on that tower. A big advantage over other two items is the cast range. At 1000, it is by far the best item you can get and cast from far away. Both Glimmer and Force Staff require you to be closer to the target to use them, putting you at even more risk. With good positioning, this is probably your best bet in terms of surviving. You not only cast it from far, but also buff a beast that will hopefully protect you. In terms of build up and stats it gives, it is also way better than the other two items. It gives you armor, stats, movement speed, mana and HP, a crazy value for money. For the build up, with every bit of gold you also get that bonus. You do not need to wait for that long compared to a Glimmer or Force. When is it bad? Well, there is only one scenario, but it can be quite common. It does suck if you have nobody to put it on. If your carry does not use right clicks, so let us say Necro or Riki, or they base their damage on something like illusions or big attack speed boost, it can be quite underwhelming. In most of the games though, with a regular carry, this item is one of the best ones you can get. Let us give it a rating. In terms of universality, I will give it 7 out of 10, as you cannot use it on yourself and this makes it an elite dependent pickup. Value for money, it's easily 8 out of 10, with minus 2 points being for the same fact again. Build up is easily 10 out of 10, so it is by far the best support item in terms of that. That gives us a rating of 25 out of 30, so in my opinion, making it the best support item, at least in the current patch. It has almost 58% win rate as well, compared to Glimmer's 51 and Force Staff 50. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more item breakdowns like this, let me know in the comments. If you are looking for support content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. See you!